All right. Well, welcome everyone to Creating an Innovative Team Culture, put on by the Culture First Chapters program. This specific session is hosted by the Dubai, Pune, and Mauritius chapters. That would be Hannah Siddiqui from Dubai, Rajan Shah from Pune, and Jeremy Flore from Mauritius. I'm Jessie Jacob. I actually run our global chapters program. We now have 94 global chapters of people around the world who believe a better world of work is possible and are willing to do something about it. We also have Teresa here, who is joining us from the Norwalk, also New York chapter. So shout out. So welcome. We're going to be talking about the habits of an innovative team culture. But before we do that, in all things culture first, we always start with who we are as a community and how we do things around here. So what is the Culture First community? We are a group of people leaders and change agents who come together to be inspired by their peers, to ideate and to share best practices to ultimately create a better world of work. Community at Culture Ramp happens in a lot of different areas. Obviously, this is our Culture First Chapters program. We also have our flagship experience, Culture First Global, which is basically our giant conference series. The one in EMEA is happening on March 22nd, which you'll see on my lovely virtual background here promoting that. So if you aren't registered for that, would recommend it. Esther Perel speaking, no big deal. We're really excited about it. We also have our digital Slack community as well, with about 20,000 people in there sharing ideas and resources and best practices to create a better world of work. We have a podcast, a newsletter. We have some fun webinars that we host as well. So other ways to stay involved with our community. So who are we? We're a group of people around the world united in the shared belief that a better world of work is possible. We create inspiring experiences to amplify, educate, and connect other culture first activists. And so we have these five core principles that are the glue that holds our 94 global chapters together. And you could think of this as like our micro culture within the community of how we do things around here. So the first principle is fostering belonging and acceptance. So we're all about creating spaces where individuals feel like they can come and be themselves and feel seen, heard, valued, and appreciated for just being who they are. The second core principle is being willing to reflect and grow. If we're on this mission to transform the way that we work, that goes to transforming our organizations. And ultimately, that change starts with us doing the work and us being the change we want to see in the world. So really this idea of a growth mindset, being willing to turn the mirror around and see, how am I contributing to this work environment or work relationship? The third core principle is having the courage to be vulnerable. For any Brene Brown fans out there, this is the idea of that in order for us to build more trust and psychological safety, that requires vulnerability and turning the mirror around and willing to look at how we're contributing to the work relationships and work environments. That's incredibly vulnerable work, but we need that. And once one person takes down their masks, other people feel comfortable taking off their masks to be the real human beings behind, I work at this company and I have this title. So the fourth core principle is putting learning into action. We didn't want this to just be another place where people consumed content and it went in one ear and out the other. We wanted this to be a place where you could come and feel inspired to take action. So you'll see at the very end, we'll talk about how can you put some of these learnings into action and what can you do about it. The last principle is connection inside, business outside. This is just a fancy way of saying that in the context of this gathering, we're here to connect as human beings first. And if that leads to us doing business on the outside of the context of this gathering, that's awesome. But passing business cards and pushing each other's businesses to one another is not the primary purpose of the gathering. The primary purpose is for us to do the work and ultimately create a better world of work. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen there. Anything else that you want me to add, Hannah, Rajan, Jeremy, before I jump in? Brief pause.
Join the chapters if you haven't done so already.
Yes, perfect. Yes, if you're not a part of one of our chapters, and you would like to be notified of future gatherings, you'll just go to chapters.culturefirst.com to be in the know, and you'll be able to join other stuff we have going on in the community. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen again. Let's see. Guys, the tabs, I tell you what. All right. So we're here to talk about creating an innovative team culture. Obviously, we went over this. I'm the community manager for our chapters program. So what do innovative team cultures do? They always start with why. So why are we gathering here today? For any Priya Parker fans out here, you'll appreciate this, but the purpose of today is to learn the specific values, habits, and specific actions that teams use to be innovative and agile. And so the big questions that we want to be able to answer at the end of the gathering are, what are the habits and values of an innovative team? And what are the tools and exercises that innovative teams use? And how can you apply these tools? So let's start with a check-in question. So either scan this QR code, or I'm going to put a link in the chat. Let's see. I wish my other monitor was working right now, team. Otherwise, I would drop this in here. Boop, boop, boop. Copy link. There's the link to the Slido in the chat. Okay, I'm going to share. But another thing innovative teams do is they check in with one another. They create time to connect. They create time to check in. So what's one word to describe how you're doing today? So again, you can either scan this QR code, you can grab the link in the chat, or you can go to slido.com and enter in this code 3070375. But just wanting to check in with you all, what's one word to describe how you're doing today? Excited, enthusiastic, distracted. I heard that. Take a couple more minutes to have a few others join us here. Exhausted. Thank you for sharing. Honestly, I appreciate that. Oh, and these are anonymous. I hope you all know that. Dominique's in the chat. She said she's happy. Love it. +1 to exhausted. Accomplished. Oh, I want that. That sounds nice. Enthusiastic. Amazing. Okay. Thank you all. Okay. Another check-in question. Some of you started to answer this with exhausted, but what's your energy level today? So no judgment of whatever that is. Like, are you red, yellow, or green? So red's like, woof, I'm not great. But we're here. We made it. We're exhausted. Yellow's like, I'm feeling pretty good, but I could be better. And green's like, heck yes, I've got lots of energy. Let's freaking do this. So again, no judgment of wherever you are on the spectrum, but just like, how's your energy today? Most people feeling yellow. Understandable. Good amount of greens. All right. Fantastic. So this is another thing you can do with your team. So the first thing, like checking in, word cloud, just how temperature check, how's everyone doing? This is a fantastic way of doing this too. I've seen teams do this on Slack. They'll put their actual color on their Slack notification to say how their energy level is for the day. And then if you see someone who's like red or yellow, you can kind of just check in and say, and have a little more compassion and understanding for where they're coming from. I've also seen teams take this and elevate it to the next level of using a feelings wheel and having the whole spectrum of feelings, and then having their team members choose a feeling as well, which is also Another amazing check-in question. Okay, so we're going to talk about obviously the habits and values of an innovative team, but I want to know, what do you think are the values of an innovative team? There's no right or wrong, just like genuinely curious. Again, these are anonymous. So what comes up for you when you think of like an innovative team culture and they slapped these values up on the wall? What are the values? Agile. Okay. Love it. Creative, ambitious. Yeah. Ooh, inquisitive. Talkative. That's fun. Yeah. Lots of dialogue, lots of people sharing ideas. Collaborative, supportive, inclusive, listeners. Fail faster, learn faster. Yes. Yeah, inclusive kind of, I feel like, goes with the like collaborative and also kind of talkative. Those maybe go together. Open-minded, sharing similar values. Has to be a team first. Yeah. Trusted. Risk neutral. Ooh, interesting. Informed, psychological safety. So good. We got some serious workplace culture folks here. This is amazing. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing this. Thank you all for answering that. Okay, moving us on. So these are the values that I think are an innovative team culture. So in my humble opinion, IMHO, some of you said psychological safety. I also think that's a value of an innovative team. We said growth. So whoever said the like learn faster, fail faster, like this idea of just like moving quickly and keeping learning as you go. Essentialism, I think, is also a value of an innovative team. I'll get into some of these about what that actually means. Self-awareness and fun. I think a lot of the ones you shared are like collaborative, inclusive, talkative. I think a lot of those trusted. I think a lot of those fit into these buckets, and I'll explain more about what each of these means. But so psychological safety, you all are in this field and are, with it, but the definition of psychological safety is being able to show and employ oneself without fear of negative consequences of self-image, status, or career. So some of the other things that you think about of like trust, vulnerability, authenticity, things like that. Okay, what it actually looks like in action is people genuinely connecting. So whoever said like talkative, that I think that's a perfect example of like what a talkative team who's like really sharing ideas and collaborating, that's a team that you could see has psychological safety. People asking quote unquote dumb questions, another way of seeing a psychologically safe team. Growth. So to develop by building upon previous versions or iterations, using each version as the point of departure for refinement and tweaks. I would say agile also fits into this. We talked about creativity. A few people shared that. I think that kind of fits in here. So what that looks like is finding opportunities to improve, reflecting on what did and did not work, maybe testing new ideas, failing and then learning from failure. Someone said that specifically. Brainstorming new ideas. That's what this value looks like in action. Essentialism. I don't know if any of you have read Greg McKeown's book, but the idea of essentialism is the disciplined pursuit of doing less but better so you can make the highest possible contribution. So getting more of the right stuff done in less time. So this idea of like working smarter and not harder is a value of an innovative team, in my opinion. So they're focused, they're productive, they're prioritizing effectively, they're resourceful, they set boundaries, and they actually like adhere to those boundaries. So what that looks like is doing what's most important or imperative. They say no to things. So I call them, you say no to zombies. So zombies being things that aren't providing enough value for the time, money, and energy we're spending on that specific thing. They find ways of the best way to work together, and they make time. So someone's like, I don't have time for that. But these kinds of innovative teams are like, we make time for strategy. We make time for the things that are most important. Self-awareness. Another value of an innovative team, the conscious knowledge of, so someone shared inquisitive. So the understanding like our feelings, our motives, our desires. So consciousness, introspective, humility, curiosity, perspective taking, self-management. What this looks like is, mindful breathing to check in at the beginning of a meeting, finding areas to improve, and maybe some of our like unconscious spots, having empathy for others, taking time to reflect. This is what a lot of innovative teams do. And then lastly, they have fun. Like this idea of enjoyment, amusement, or lighthearted pleasure. They have a sense of humor. They celebrate. I would also say like the talkative teams, there's like, what this looks like in action is laughter, like teams actually having a good time and enjoying their work. They're playing games. They do chants or high fives or whatever that thing is. They do community service together. There's lots of ways that teams can have fun, but I think innovative teams also enjoy themselves. Okay. Please throw in the chat, now that you've seen how I'm thinking about this in terms of the 5 values of an innovative team, in the chat, which of these values do you feel like your team needs to cultivate the most right now? Like, which ones could you really focus in on? Essentialism, fun. Yeah. Having a good time and doing what's most, I feel like we're all kind of under this, like, there's a million things to be doing, and if everything's important, then like nothing's important kind of thing. Like, I think we're all getting stuck into that rabbit hole right now, it seems. But yes, love it. Thank you. So essentialism and having a good time, I think, are coming up here as themes. Okay. I'll share this deck out with you afterwards, but some of the like habits and actions of an innovative team, I have shared this, and the ones that are highlighted, we're going to kind of lean into, but they start with why, they take a mindful moment, they check in and connect with one another. We did that. We also started with our why. We're going to have time to kind of like do an exercise where we're voicing our concerns. We're going to make some time to play and have some fun. We're going to collaborate and create some new ideas together. And we're going to check out and also learn from our mistakes as a team here. So, all right. So we're going to do the first exercise here, which is a pre-mortem. So, how many, like, show of hands or like in the chat, thumbs up, whatever, have done like an after action review or a post-mortem? Have you ever heard of that before? Any nods? Okay. So the idea of like, after you complete a project or an initiative, the idea is like a post-mortem is like after it's done, you're like, okay, what did we learn? Like, what would we have done differently? What worked well? What were some of the key decisions we made that we would have tweaked? So that's after the project. So a pre-mortem is doing that same process, but before you start the project or initiative or the thing that you're about to roll out. And why this is so important is that when you're able to set up some, the worst time to iterate on something is when you're in the middle of a project, because people's egos are involved, or you're like, you have this idea of the sunk cost fallacy where you're like, I've invested so much time and money and energy in this already. It has to freaking work. So instead, before you start something, you identify the risks to starting the project. You think about, okay, well, what are all the ways that this project could go poorly? And you talk about that beforehand. And then you go and mitigate each of those risks. Let's talk about, so like before we ran this meeting, right? I could have been like, you know what? I need to make some of these other people co-hosts so that if my internet happens to go out, the meeting won't end because of me. It'll just keep going, right? That would have been a perfect time to have thought about that before the gathering to mitigate said risk. And then the idea is to also come up with pivot indicators. So identifying, how will we know this initiative has failed, and when will we know? So being able to measure in advance when something is off track so that you can course correct and it's proper. And you know when the right time is to make pivots and to edit and to take a different direction. And then the idea is to come up with a plan B. So what's your contingency plan? Like, what can you do instead to make sure that this is going to be a great initiative? What we're going to do is we're going to break out into breakout rooms and we're going to go through each of these phases with a partner. So what I would like to do, I'm going to share the questions in the chat. And then if you can't go into a breakout room, and I understand it's evening for some of you, maybe you're like cooking dinner or winding down. I don't know what that is, but what if you can't join a breakout room, that's totally fine. Just let us know. So I would like for you to pick up, maybe it's like some sort of like project or initiative that you're about to start or that you're going to do in the future. And if you don't have something, like make something up. Maybe the thing is that you're going to run an event, right? Maybe that's a perfect one. So I want you to pick some sort of scenario project that you're about to run. It could be initiative. Maybe you're you're running a meeting for your team, or you're preparing for some presentation. So start to think about that thing. And then I would love to have you go into a breakout room and work through these questions that I'm going to put in the chat. So what is the project or initiative? What are the 3 biggest risks to this project? What are the ways to mitigate each of these risks? And how will I know I've failed, and when will I know? What are the plan Bs? Like, what are the measurements of the thing not being a success? And then how can we create contingency plans from here? All good. I saw a couple people DM me. Thank you. No worries. If you can't join the breakout room. So we are going to just, I'm going to create these rooms. Any questions about what we have going on so far? Okay. So I'm going to, how many people are here? Create our rooms. All right. You know what? Actually, a large amount of people can't join the rooms. How about we do this? Let's do this together. See, this is perfect. We're iterating on the fly right here. This is an example of iterating as an innovative team. Let's go through this together. So who has something that they're about to work on, like a project, an initiative, an event that they'd be with? Yes, Teresa, let's go. Okay. All right, Teresa, tell us about your.
If somebody else has one more from this chapter area, please feel free to use yours.
Oh, Ahmed raised their hand. Do you want to go? We probably have
go for it. Yeah. Let's go with Ahmed first.
That was nice, Teresa. Thank you. Okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm not sure why the priority was given to me, but okay, fine. Thank you very much, Teresa. Really appreciate it.
Love it. Yes. Let's do this. Tell us what you have going on.
I'm working with a small crypto startup that is based out of Dubai. I'm based out of MENA region, and I'm looking after the India and MENA offices. In terms of our kind of, company setup, we have a team of developers, software and product team members based out of India, and then we're managing them from UAE. So the leadership team they keep traveling between the offices. So what I'm now equipped with as a project is to make sure all those people are engaged, motivated, and they kind of, I have the retention rate to make sure, they're being, they have this sense of being part of the team. I'm trying to work on different metrics, making sure, the team members are engaged, motivated, and they feel like that office feel while they're working remotely. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. What are the challenges? Widespread teams, different time zones, and then obviously you can try to create a lot of coordination, communication to keep them engaged, but you don't want to do over communication to that start impacting your productivity. Yeah, I'm working around this metrics. Maybe
Okay.
That's all.
So your project is, how do I measure engagement then? Maybe is it clear, like you're like trying to think about the best ways to measure and motivate the team. Is that like a good reflection?
Exactly.
Okay.
sense check what's working for them, what's not working for them, and how we can make sure they stay engaged and happy with the team culture where they have to work remotely from different location. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So I am I'm synthesizing this in the chat. Okay, so then our next phase here, Ahmed, would be what are the three biggest risks to doing all of this? Like what could go wrong, basically? Like if you didn't measure engagement, or if you didn't care about motivation, what could go wrong?
We're at the building stage, and that's a very competitive market. Obviously, the talent loss, retention, high attrition rate in that case, if we don't take care of people. Working remotely, if they're not engaged, it will automatically drop productivity because we cannot, and I'm strictly against it to keep the camera or being a gatekeeper, should be online by 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. They should take the ownership. That will only come if we make them empowered, engaged, right? I think these are the two biggest challenges I can think of right now. And yeah, the coordination, we can improve coordination. Otherwise, they will be kind of people working in silos. Yeah.
Okay, 3, love that. Working in silos. Okay. And what other, if you were to like roll out, well, let's see. What are the 3 biggest risks? Okay, I think this works. What are the ways to mitigate each of these risks? So let's start with the first one you said about like, we could lose talent or like high attrition. Like, what could you do for that?
Okay, I think all of it comes boiled up to different level of people, aspirations. What do they want? You cannot offer kind of, one benefit serves all scheme anymore, being it recognition, ownership, or even kind of, reward benefits. Attrition, there are multiple ways. Maybe I'm the one who is more motivated towards my development, maybe my learning path, making sure I'm being recognized, I'm being rewarded. So I think I just have to work on understanding again what's not working, sense check. But doing that, I cannot go to the point where I have to develop a special kind of development and retention plan for each employee. It has to be on a company level, and yet it has to be collaborative, making sure we are engaging the whole department together, right? So I think it's more towards understanding what's not working for them. Are they engaged? Are they motivated? Are they feeling like they're being heard or they're being rewarded fairly? These are the few things that we will make sure to increase or to kind of maintain the attrition rate. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so do they feel heard? What can we do to make them feel motivated? Okay.
Yeah.
And what the second risk was working remotely and then they aren't engaged, then productivity will decline. So like what can we do to mitigate that risk?
That only comes to ownership. Like, say, I work with Kareem for the last 6 years. That's the Uber subsidiary in the MENA region. I could tell you during that time when we were kind of, building something, the intern, the associate to the CEO, we didn't have to polish anyone. They all were putting the best they could do. They could use to bring the best self of them because they felt like they had this ownership. They were empowered to do things, to kind of, make significant changes, and they could see the impact. I believe all of it has to come with the right mindset. And if they are the right people, obviously, then if they have ownership, we don't have to worry about, okay, you work, let's say, we don't encourage people to send us message at 9 a.m. or email to make sure that you're working. But yeah, there has to be some metrics, maybe one-on-one on a weekly basis, to do the progress check in terms of how they're doing mentally in their personal life and obviously work-wise as well. And we do prefer and follow sprint planning for developers and for operation function as well, where we discuss progress and we kind of divide the task and objective into small achievable item, and then we review it. Okay, fine, what's the progress, what we need to have to build on as the next achievable small item in that week.
All right, awesome. So also like sprint planning can help with keeping the team engaged, even though we are working remotely. So being able to empower them to see how they are owning decisions and the impact that they are having on the organization, but also using those sprint meetings as an opportunity to bring the team together to consistently connect and keeping them engaged. Okay, I love that. And then the third one you mentioned was working in silos. So what other ways could you, I mean, you kind of started to address this a little bit with the sprint planning, but what other ways can you mitigate the risk of the team starting to work more in silos? So how can you foster more collaboration within your teams?
So, I mean, as a people person, I use every opportunity to engage with people on a personal level, and I try to encourage kind of, those kind of conversation between team members as well. Just to give an example, during all hands, I mean, we run different activities, kind of, we ask people to tell about their kind of, life journeys, something that builds communication, something that builds connection, and people feel like, okay, they're part of the community. Once you build that sense of community, then people have tendency to connect with each other and to talk about work. Yeah, that's one way. And then another way is to kind of, have those functional call. Again, that's something doing a very old school, that the leadership level people from all the function sit together one time a week to talk about the project and dependencies and kind of, how we are collaborating with each other as a department. But from the grassroots level, at employee level, all teams working together, I think it might take a lot of time, and that's where we're trying to experiment new things. Yeah.
Anyone, speaking of like experimenting new things, anyone have any other ideas for Ahmed on how to create more connection and cross collaboration? Yeah, Rajan.
Yeah, so I have a better. There's another event that happened in the cultural force itself that was like better meetings. So they have a definite template about following some guidelines about how to conduct the meetings, which can be effective, connected, and also it can achieve a lot of things. I will share the link to that event and also document about that. That framework helps. There are some games also, like whenever the staff meeting happens, like there can be cakes meeting or all ends or something. So there are some innovative games that can be played, which is like it works best for the global teams. And there are different ways to bring out the team culture in that. So those things, I think that I have done the similar thing last week in my team. So that's where I remember that it helped me to connect better for the remote global teams.
Love that. Okay, so adding ways to mitigate the working in silos is connecting on a personal level during one-on-ones, building connection intentionally, making space for connection during all hands, and then following a framework for better meetings. Rajan, I feel like if you wouldn't mind sharing that with us afterwards, that would be awesome. But also thinking about the games that you can create to create cross collaboration as well. Sonia here in the chat put plan regular but short team meetings to talk about non-work related things so that we can bring connection among the team members. Yeah, I love that. Or even just building that into the meeting, Okay, Ahmed, moving us on here. So we talked about mitigating our risks. Let's talk about some of the pivot indicators. So how will you know that some of your efforts are failing, and when will you know? So I know this sounds like an interesting question, but how will you know that? So essentially, to sum it up, like, how do you know if you are if you're losing talent? How do you know if the team is not engaged and they're working remotely? And how will you know if they're working in silos?
I think the right metrics for the retention is the number of resignation a month. That's something we do track. In terms of the engagement and how they're feeling, we don't have any kind of platform like Picon to gauge the engagement rate for each matrix. We are still trying to figure out if we need it at this stage or not. But I believe the one-on-one with the line manager is another way where kind of line manager can sense check how the employee is feeling. And as an HR person, I also try to connect with each team member at least one time a month to understand and to know if they're doing well. And then we have open door policy, but obviously people don't feel like reaching out to you, hey, it's not working out, and they simply resign. So I think on the engagement rate, we might need some specific tool, formalized tool, to encourage people to participate and let us know how they're feeling, because being anonymous might give more sort of ownership in the process. Yeah. And on the third collaboration side, it's very evident. If it's not there, then teams obviously they don't they fail to kind of achieve the desired results. The way the companies are looking for the building stage. Yeah, but it's a little bit subjective on the last thing, but yeah.
Okay, so pivot indicator number 1 is like how many people are putting in their resignations per month, and being able to maybe have a tool to track that could be helpful. So that's almost like the plan B, or like the way to mitigate this, or maybe that could be something to think about. And then how will you know that the team is not engaged working remotely? I think is maybe falls into that same category of being able to like track the team and keep a pulse on them as well. So maybe an engagement score would be helpful,
Yes. Like while I was working at Kareem, we used to have Pecan, which used to give us a very clear idea about engagement rate for compensation, for recognition, for kind of company culture, etc. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And then the last one is working in silos. Like, how do you know if the team's working in silos, and like when will you know that?
It's again very clear in terms of the KPIs of delivery. Once you see that the teams are not collaborating right to get things done and deliver, we don't have a metrics or kind of right now the tool to assess it. Yeah, but I think the delivery or the performance speaks volume about it. Yeah. Or miscoordination within the department.
Okay. All right. And then Ahmed, any like final like takeaways from this? Like, what is we say like, what's the contingency plan or the plan B, but like, what are the things that you've taken away from this that you're like, I can actually do something about this. I can like go and implement this, or maybe what makes sense from a next steps perspective?
Okay, I believe all of it is just a kind of, another attempt of HR to be a kind of an entertainer for the people if we don't get the buy-in from the line manager. So before I implement and even present this to leadership, it's important that we get the buy-in from the leadership team, C-level. Then each and every line manager needs to be kind of, trained on how to connect with people and how to motivate them. And then obviously all of it can then it's just a fallout. Everything else is just a fallout. So the leadership, the ownership should be taken by line manager. HR has to be facilitated in the whole process. Yeah.
All right. Anything else? Any other plan B?
I think for now, I don't have it right now on top of my head because I haven't thought about it, because wherever I worked, we generally used to empower and make line manager accountable for this kind of initiative. HR helps them, facilitates them, but the ownership will be thrown out of the window. We don't have the buy-in from the leadership of line managers. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. Can we give like a round of applause, or like maybe with a little emoji, even if you're off camera? Like, thank you.
Thank you very much. No, thank
you. Awesome. Teresa, we got a couple minutes. Do you want to try and go through yours real quick? We'll like do a speed version of it. How do you feel?
Okay, sure. I was just gonna use a real easy one. So
do it.
Ahmed used a much more complicated one. So mine isn't anywhere near as creating the social and connectedness of an entire startup team. So well done, Ahmed. Mine I am going to be doing my first like coffee chat with Culture First. I have been kind of kicking off my programming, and this is going to be a virtual coffee chat. And so I want it to be a success with with the idea of people coming together with sort of without a ton of like heavy preparation or, these like, really it's just an informal opportunity to gather. So that's happening next Friday in our United States St. Patrick's Day. I don't know where everybody else is if they're celebrating St. Patrick's Day, but so that's I'm just loving the international nature of this call. I'm thrilled.
Yeah.
So that's sort of my challenge.
What are the risks to hosting this? What are the risks to hosting this gathering?
I think the risks are mostly ego driven, meaning, you put yourself out there to schedule something and then like nobody shows up.
Okay.
And so the ego of like, gosh, do I just not have I not done? So yeah, it's ego. It's, have I not done the right preparation? Do I not have the right network? Is spending time with me, not interesting enough? So I think it's more emotional, ego driven risk.
Okay. Any other risks? Maybe another risk could be.
It could be risk is if people join and there ends up, developing a conversation that has more conflict than I was expecting, or I don't know. What did you think, Jess?
Yeah, I was thinking like, I don't know, the risk could be it's St. Patrick's Day and maybe people are like, I'm taking off work, maybe, maybe
Yeah.
not.
Or maybe they're already out for the St. Patrick's Day parade and they're like, yeah, I don't want to do a coffee or a coffee session at 10 o'clock.
I love it. Okay, so how do we let's see, the next phase is what are the ways to mitigate each of these? So the first one being like, no one shows up. Like, how do we mitigate that risk?
Jessie, I will look for your registration to come through shortly.
I join you. I love it.
I do think that's a part of it though, like soliciting individuals that I would actually want to just have a chat with, like personally. So it's less about like throwing it out to the broad scope of like, let's get dozens of people, but really like, hey, I haven't connected with you in a long while. Would love to just see if you'd be interested in joining a coffee chat, and no stress, no big expectation, just a chance to take a few minutes and connect. I think one way to mitigate is to reach out to my personal group. Another way to mitigate it is to reinforce, which I always think I have to reinforce internally with Culture First events, is just like, there's no, this isn't a sales pitch meeting. Like this isn't something that you're going to get pitched to buy something. This is really just about true connection. And maybe a third mitigation would be like, if you're feeling vulnerable, you can just show up and be there. Like you don't have to be a heavy participant.
Yeah. Okay, I love that. So I heard reach out to people directly and like one-on-one, almost like that direct outreach, reinforcing that this isn't like a sales, like a networking event, it is like a place for people to come and genuinely connect. And then also in the invitation, expressing like, yeah, if you want to come and like be heavily engaged, you can, or if you want to just show up and kind of like passively join, that's okay too. So that being a part of the communication. Love that. And let's skip to the other one around like the other risk being like people are taking off for work because it's St. Patrick's Day. Like how else could we mitigate that one?
You could drink, instead of drinking coffee, you could drink green beer. Like come and drink your beverage, do your pre-gaming with Culture First.
Love it. Come and have your coffee. Bring your Irish coffee.
Irish coffee.
Yeah, you bring your Baileys and your Jameson with your coffee. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Okay, bring your Irish coffee.
Pre-game with culture first. Bring your Irish coffee or
pre-game the parade.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Any other ways to mitigate this? So I would say like
I'd love to hear from others. I can't think of any.
I love that idea though. So almost like adding that to your Rajan's funny, but change the date. Yeah.
Change the date. Yeah. I actually chose that date specifically because I felt like people would be like a little bit less
chill.
Like just people be chill. I just didn't want it to be like this heavy thing. So
all right. Okay, moving us on quickly, which is like, how will we know we've failed and when will we know? Are there ways to, I would say, the pivot.
I could, one of the ways I could know is just to kind of keep monitoring the attendance or the registrations.
Yeah.
And so far I think I have one, so I've got some marketing to do. And I think, one of the things that was super successful for my last event, I felt like it was really successful, was the day before, like I had my last event on a Monday. So I did this on the Friday before, and I did direct outreach through LinkedIn to every single person who registered. And I actually had a few people that couldn't come, but that have scheduled time with me after the fact to just to say oh, I was really impressed with your direct outreach. I'd love to get to know you. So I thought that was really positive, and I can do that again this time, is just reinforce some of these things we just said, hey, this is going to be fun, interactive, bring your Irish coffee, do your pre-gaming with culture first. It's really, there's no pressure, no stress, I'll be, wait to see these shamrock headgear that I'll have on, and just keep it fun. And then I'll also know on obviously the day of, if I log in and nobody else is there.
So good. Okay, so what I heard was your plan B, or really plan B is plan A, in some reaching out directly, keeping the St. Patrick's Day content fun, and then just keep monitoring attendance as you get closer.
I think the other thing that has to be established as before I can do a pivot indicator, or how we know if I've failed, is what is my expectation of a success? Is 2 people attending a success? Is 10 people attending a success? If I don't have a criteria going in, I'm not going to be able to measure it coming out. So I think that's a part of those,
I love that.
Creating that criteria.
Defining your actual success metric.
Exactly.
Okay. I love it. Okay. Let's this is amazing. Thank you, Teresa. Round of applause for Teresa for leading in and sharing all of this. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Just general reflections, zooming out from the exercises that we just did with Ahmed and Teresa. What did you just experience as a team? How were we embodying these values of psychological safety, growth, essentialism, fun? How did that manifest through this exercise? Anyone have any thoughts on that?
I'll share. I think that with Ahmed feeling comfortable enough to share his experience, his own personal kind of worries, or me sharing my personal worries, that's that idea of exposing yourself and then getting other people to feel maybe more welcome to share.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the courage to be vulnerable right there is creating more psychological safety and trust for this group. If we're not going to call this group as a team, voicing those concerns is very much building trust and psychological safety with the group. Anyone else have something about how we were embodying those values, or just general takeaways of what you thought about that exercise?
I like the exercise because the way the thought process went through the questions, basically the set of questions that were there, that made each one think. While like Emma or Teresa were speaking, even others would be thinking in the back of their mind that what we could have done in that place. So that
Right.
thought process, so that's a very good way with this exercise. That's a good takeout. I must say it's nice.
Love that. All right. So I'm going to move us on to our next thing. We're going to have fun. We're going to embody the value of fun next. We're going to collectively pitch a company here together. So since the 5 of us or the 4 of you have your cameras turned on, we're just going to, unless anyone else wants to play this with us, please turn your camera on, join us. I'm going to share a video explaining a little bit about like what we're about to do, so you get an idea. And then we're going to do this together. So let me share my screen. Anyone an SNL fan, Kate McKinnon fan? She's amazing. So here we go. I'm going to share this video.
Yeah. How we doing? Yeah. Gosh. First rule, of course, is to dress well, and you're winning already. But we're here to talk about a little about myself. I've been called a prophet. I've been called a wizard. I've been called a guru. I've been called. I talk about the commodification of new media. Okay. Yeah. It's being polluted. Are we going to go with it? We have to. What choice do we have, right? Here's the situation. 65% of our paper goes to PowerPoints. Printing slides, distributing packets. I'm sick of the packets, guys. Okay. So we got to go.
All right. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to collectively pitch a company. I'm going to share a slide deck that you all have never seen before. Each of you is going to get assigned a slide, and then the slides are going to auto advance every 20 seconds onto the next thing. And the point is that you're going to have to build off of what the next person shared. So anyone else would like to join us? Otherwise, we're yes, Natalia, let's go. Okay, amazing. So yeah, Ahmed. This is gonna be fun. We're gonna have a good time. Okay, so I'm just gonna go around and assign you all a slide number. So Teresa, you're gonna be 1. Rajan, you'll be 2. Jeremy, you're 3. Hannah, you're 4. Natalia, 5. Ahmed, 6. Okay. All right, here I'm gonna pull up our deck here. Let me get this going really fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2.
Is it going to repeat?
Yes. So you'll get 2 slides. 3, 4. Awesome. 5. Perfect. This worked out great. Okay. So let me add our autoplay here. Sorry, team, just a second. Okay. All right, are we ready? Everyone understand what's happening? So it's going to go, Teresa will start us off, and then we're going to build from there. So then when the slide auto advances after 20 seconds, Rajan, you're just going to build off of what Teresa said, okay? Cool.
This is like
Sonia,
the worst game of telephone.
with us? Sonia, would you like to join us?
Yes.
Oh, amazing.
I'm
Okay.
in.
All right, cool. Let me edit our slide deck here really quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1. Okay. 2, 3, 4. All right. So here we go. Gonna share my screen. All right. Teresa. And begin.
Hi, everybody. So we're here in this room today to talk a little bit about what we do. As a company, we believe in connection, we believe in collaboration, and we believe in forming a bond together that really.
So if you have heard Teresa clearly, then there is a good amount of opportunity to invest in our company, because we are definitely connected very close to the people, the culture, and we feel that the world needs to change in terms of how they connect the people with the culture rather than just being.
But here's our challenge. So we want to create more connection. We identified opportunities for growth, and we want to reach out to people. So our problem today is how can we create a better connection and foster more team spirit.
And what we're facing is a challenge of getting people together in the room and talking about things. And we want to create this community where everyone can come together and feel valued and feel belonging, and encourage people to join us, and so that we can expand.
And we can always explore what could be the solution to this problem. We can come together, talk about it, just share our views, our best experience, what has worked for us, what not, and that would be our way to approach.
And that's the only kind of 32 days plan. I mean, if you look at the market, the potential size is $40 million, right? In 32 days, our project that will bring people together to have a better collaboration, to kind of create real connection. It's kind of is going to cover 32 days.
Thank you. So we also have to look at our competition so that we can keep satisfying our customers and align to what the market is advancing each and every day. So we keep
And here's what makes us really different. What other companies do is they focus in on kind of just the love part. They don't really consider how the true human nature of people, that there's also this other darker side. Where we want to really focus is right in the middle.
So the team we have is very distributed. It's diverse, that we have different people from geographical locations. We have people from different companies, different domain of businesses. So we have a mixed experience of the team.
So what about our leader, right? So we need to work together with our leaders. So today we're talking about servant leadership. So how can we have this big role together and advance as one? So of course we're not gonna have an all hands meeting.
So what we want from you is to invest in our mission and to join us and help our leadership achieve their goals, to get that sweet spot that we're looking for and get the balance that we're trying to achieve in our business of getting people together.
Thank you for your attention. We look forward to working with you.
Oh man, round of applause, everyone. Round of applause. I really appreciated that the slide with all of the bees that Rajan said, yeah, with such a diverse team, it's just a bunch of bees. So good.
That's a great fun exercise. Thank you.
So good. Oh, that's one of my faves. I also like that Jeremy said that our leader's gonna roar. It's amazing. Any like takeaways from that? How was that experience for you all? Even in the chat, if you didn't participate, would love to hear like your thoughts on that exercise, but how did that go? What was it like for you?
I think we all opened up, we started collaborating, right? And I think I might replicate the same in our next all hands. So thank you very much for the idea.
Oh, good. So awesome.
And I must say that this is a similar game I was talking about while talking the better meetings, that there's a way to have similar games in staff meeting. So concept was similar to what we already played over here, but we did a different thing, that the problem was generated by some of the players itself, and the others have to pitch in with the solution immediately, and using some a prob that is around us. So that was the game idea.
Love that. What else? Any other, how are we embodying? I mean, obviously we embody the value of fun, but like, how else did we embody the values of an innovative team? So the idea of like psychological safety, essentialism, growth, fun, self-awareness.
I from my perspective, I think with essentialism, I think that's an interesting value. I've never heard of that term, so I'm definitely going to check out that book. But I think the fact that you knew that you were in a finite period of time to speak, like you didn't actually know when it was going to switch, but you knew it was going to. And so the necessity of taking the short period of time you had, trying to ease the transition from the previous person, and then say something that could guide the next person, really kind of narrow down what you could talk through while you had that slide on. I thought that was really
a good point. Yeah, it's like less is more. You have to be like short, sweet, to the point. Yeah, it's such a good point. Yeah. I've done this with so many teams where they'll be like, well, our founders won't feel comfortable doing this. And because they're so used to especially at like an all hands meeting or in front of like the entire team, because they're so used to having a talk track or like a script to follow with their team. And I was like, that's so funny that this is just like a stupid game. But like, it goes to show that if a founder or an executive doesn't feel like they can come and just show up to the meeting and like talk about puppies and babies and pigs and bumblebees for a little bit, like how the team lacks so much psychological safety. And so this is a way to like kind of build on that muscle a little bit more, you know?
Can I add a little? I thought that we all knew we were vulnerable. We were all in that situation where we were put on the spot, and I think related to each other. And I like that sort of, it came together as a team and everybody, sort of fed off each other's anxiety, but the fun part as well. So I think that collaboration was amazing.
Yes, so good. Thanks, Hannah. Yeah, I mean, it also forces you to be totally present in what the person is saying before you, because maybe you have an idea of where you want to take things, but like you have to build off what the other person said. And then whatever the slide is, you're just like, this is where I have to be right here. You can't like go off and Kennedy, great tool to see how connected on the same page teams are. It's a great collaboration challenge to see where the teams connected. Yeah, how they can work together. Let me tell you about where innovation track is. Yes, what's someone seeing that? Yeah, that's so good. Thanks for sharing that, Kennedy. Okay, so building off of this idea, we're going to do another quick exercise called creating a top 10 list. So presenting here, the idea is like, okay, what we just did, which was like, we were building off of what the other person said. So what we're going to do is we're going to have someone who has a problem or a scenario, and we're going to create a list of 10 ideas to build off of this other person. The idea is like, the first 3 ideas or solutions to your problem, maybe like they're okay. They're normally decent ideas. They're kind of like the no-brainer. Yeah, that makes sense. Ideas 4 through 7 become like a little more challenging. And then 8 through 10 is where your brain really starts to kind of like sweat and like really get creative. So there are no bad ideas. Something you may share could be absurd, but it may inspire someone else. It doesn't even need to be like a totally realistic idea. You want to build off others. We're not going to repeat. So any of the 10 that we share will not be repeated. And the idea is to like think big. So I'm going to unhide this slide. So who has an example of something that we can work on together? So who has a problem? Like something that you need ideas for? Anyone have something? Maybe who's got like something that you're like, I need to come up with a clever idea for an event, or I'm looking to, I don't know, run a meeting and I want to make it engaging, or whatever the thing is. Anyone have something?
I can share one.
All right, what you got?
So at my company, we have a task coming up in this month that we have to finalize the goals for the team that can be like oriented with the company's goals. And also it should increase everyone's individual development goals. Okay, because we operate in a financial year manner. So we have to do that from the start of April. Now, the problem here is that the goals that my team used to have is quite different than what the leadership is expecting, and the expectations from leadership to have the team operate in a different manner is something which is not a doable thing for me as of now, but there is no choice for me, but we still have to finalize that, how we adjust in the differences of the goals.
Ooh, this might be a hard one.
Can I jump in to maybe reframe that?
Yeah, go please.
I'm thinking, is it appropriate to say, Rajan, that you're needing to align the goals of the leadership team and the individual contributors? And as like a small asterisk, you would say that today those are not aligned?
Yeah, that's very true. The reason is that we have been moved to a different business unit. So that's the problem.
Ah.
Okay, this one might be too complex. I'm going to be honest for this silly of an exercise.
So I have a meeting coming up with a multinational bank, and they are thinking about hiring us as a DEI consultant for the thing, but we need to convince the leadership that that's something that's a good thing for them, and then, sort of get buy-in from the leadership for that. Is that something we can ideate over?
Yeah, I think so. And then Kennedy had one, looking for ways to place value in our customer service team and make them feel like their job is more than answering happy customers. Okay, I have another exercise for you, Kennedy, later. Okay, Hannah, let's do the like convincing people of to hire you as a DEI consultant, right? Okay, let's come up with 10 ideas. So how can Hannah convincing leadership team to hire them as DEI consultants? All right, as quick as possible, throw out whatever you have. No bad ideas, build off the other people.
Translate it into their language, talk numbers and percentages.
Into their language, share numbers and data, almost like the ROI, the ROI of investing in DEI.
This case
Being
for
good
DEI.
people.
What's that? What'd you say? Be good people.
I said of the ROI of being good people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Love it. Okay. What else? What other ideas do we have?
I think perhaps, oh, go ahead.
No. Maybe to highlight the features that make Hannah and her company a good representative for the DEI mission. So she and her team, they are by themselves respond to that idea. You see what I mean? Like, so they manifest these values as a consultant.
Okay, so showing like highlighting what makes them unique and special.
Yeah.
But I
Okay.
think it's also what makes them unique and special to that company. Like how what Hannah's company does and what this bank do are aligned is interesting.
The objective is from this DEI. Is it, yeah.
Okay.
Present some testimonials which are like available, or you can make it available on the social media. So it will showcase the testimonial as well as social presence for different banks or different clients of yours.
So one thing we do is we offer them a sample kind of a discovery workshop as well.
Maybe the threats of not having a DI consultant.
What did you say, Jeremy?
The threats of not having a DI consultant.
The what of having a DEI consultant?
Threats,
The threats.
like what
Of
happens
not
if you don't do it?
The risk of not going for this. Yeah.
Love that. So good.
And the positives then that you can get certification from Great Place to Work or some place if you do engage in this. So it can be kind of a something other than the business, you know, justification.
Yeah, so stuff outside of the ROI.
Yeah, like good image for the company, good publicity.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, reinforce the talent attraction, talent
Branding, yeah,
retention.
talent attraction.
And maybe put it in a bigger geopolitical world stage context that at this time of great uncertainty, all leaders are facing this uncertainty. That's the new paradigm. It's very important to invest in the talent. Something like to throw just a little bit of, you know, bigger picture, that this is the time to do this work, actually.
And the research shows that Gen Z is very much invested in a good workplace culture, and this is how you can attract the new talent. Yeah, so talent acquisition and retention, I guess.
Maybe point at their competitors doing this job. I don't know, or at least looking in that direction and showing them how they can all do better than their competitors by hiring Hannah.
I love it. Maybe one more, just for shits and giggles. Any others? Just getting our
Encouraging the change in their own staff culture, so that when the contract with the consultants is over, they can have more takeaways in the company.
Say that again. Encouraging what?
Encouraging the culture, not just on a short-term contribution of the consultants, but also more long-term investment of their staff.
I love it. All right. That was awesome. So this is like a practical way of like building off of one another. Do you saw how like the easy ones are like, it's quick and simple where you're like, talk them their numbers, highlight the features. But then like our brains started to get more creative of like, okay, talk about the threats of like not investing in DEI. Talk about like all the other accolades that can win, from like awards to the, you know, employer branding perspective. Talk about things from a geopolitical perspective. Talk about their competitors, like things you wouldn't initially think of right away that maybe could be good ways to apply this. Okay. Super simple exercise to use with your teams. I am going to move us on here since we only have a little over 10 minutes left. I'm going to share a link to a easy retro board in the chat, and we'll just do like a little checkout here. So we'll take a couple minutes. click on the link in the chat, and we're just gonna like check out on these 3 questions. So you'll see that once you get to this board, there's 3 different columns, and you'll create a card. And there's like a little plus sign. And then once these are all anonymous, so you'll type something in and make sure you press enter or that blue check mark. And then these will all kind of start to populate. So if we were a team, what would you have done differently if we were going to run this session again? So embodying that value of growth. Self-awareness, what did you learn about yourself today? Or maybe what did you just learn in general? And then essentialism, embodying our value here. It's like, what's one thing you're willing to implement or try as a result of this session? So grab the link in the chat. I'll also share my screen, and you can use this QR code too, if that's easier. And you want to do this on your phone. Does everyone get what we're doing though? Okay, so here we go. Reframe the context of this session. It's great to focus on fun, engaging meeting sessions. Yeah, okay. Share framework and guidelines to build on what we have discussed. Ooh, I want to hear more about that. Yeah, the improv game, so fun. How to make more meetings more engaging and fun. In the pre-mortem, I can reduce my anxiety. Yeah, yes. My inner child is still very much alive. Yeah. Love that. Implement fun and interactive activities to allow my team to step back and build some connection more often. Engage more of the silent participants. Yes. I think maybe even having been clear at the beginning around saying, hey, we're going to engage, turn on your camera, join us. Yes, exactly. What that person, whoever shared about the like sharing about how the level of interactivity in advance would be helpful. Yes, I think that's great. Awesome. Being vulnerable and talk in turn can make teams connect. Yes, using simple games. Giving myself time limit to encourage quick thinking and drilling down to the most essential things that need to get done. Oof, yes. I think I think many of us could use that. Yeah, I love it. Someone's going to try the top 10 lists. I think that's a great idea. Super easy to execute with your team. It's fun. Yeah. Oh, such a good point about like even playing a game cannot seem essential, but like how it is essential, like we don't always seem prioritizing things that don't always seem essential, like games or activities. Yeah. Awesome. All right, just maybe a few more moments if you haven't already. All right. All right. What else? Like, just like closing discussion here, like anyone willing to share some of the stuff that you maybe put in the Easy Retro board, or like thinking about, like, I feel like we operated as a team here through the last like 90 minutes. So like just general takeaways about the values, or like how we embodied them, or maybe things that you're looking forward to implementing, some of your takeaways that you'd be willing to share. Would love to hear from any of you.
I'd love to have some, like a toolkit. I'm sure they exist. It might be where you got some of these exercises, but like a reference point for more innovative exercises, like meeting exercises like this.
Yeah.
It's sort of like you see a lot of similar things, like, oh, put this in here, or you know, go around and ask like rose thorn bud or whatever it is, but like truly like really new, interesting, interactive exercises. I don't think they're that easy to come by. So it'd be really great to have you know, a reference point for more of those.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. So if you want to email me, I have some exercises too that I can share, like almost facilitator guides. So like some worksheets on how to facilitate the top 10 list, how to facilitate, I have a thing called zombie hunting. I have a facilitator guide on how to run a pre-mortem with your team. So if you want, I have a lot of that already to share with you all. If you just email me and I'll give you the description. But this is like what we covered. We started with why, we checked in and we made time for people to do that with the red, yellow, green. We voiced our concerns and embodied the value of psychological safety with the pre-mortem. We made time for purposeful play with the collective pitch game, but also we embodied psychological safety with that, essentialism with that. So really just like kind of leaning into it. We also were self-aware with the reflections afterwards of like, how did that go? What was that experience for me like? We collaborated with the top 10 list. So we were embodying again this value of like, there are no bad ideas. It was fun, but it was also like practical. And we came up with 10 ideas, which kind of feeds into this idea of a growth mindset. There's other ways of doing things, like better opportunities to improve. We just did like a mini after action review here at the end around like, what would we have done differently? Maybe we talked about self-awareness of what you learned about yourself. We talked about the thing that you're willing to put into action. So this is just like a few ways that we embodied that today. But yeah, again, if you want to email me, I put my email into the chat. I also have it here on the slides. If you want to jot this down, love to connect on LinkedIn too, to stay connected with you all. I'll drop my link to LinkedIn in here as well. But any other like takeaways is before we like kind of part?
Yes, I would like to thank you because I really enjoyed this session. It is like very unlike other session where they share some presentation, some pitch, some time about the business. So thank you very much. It was really great.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thanks for sharing your story and letting us like support you. That was awesome. And you'll have to keep us posted on how we want to hear how it goes.
Definitely. I'm not sure if it's a recurring meeting every month or how does it work, but I would love to join this meeting again.
Awesome. And what part of India are you in?
I'm based in Dubai, but we're managing teams. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you're in Dubai. Okay. I'm sorry. I heard you say your team was in India. So I just assumed okay, cool. All right. So were you already part of the Dubai chapter then?
I think I am. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Awesome. Amazing. Any other takeaways? All right. Jeremy came off mute.
Yes, I wanted to thank you, Jessie, for this really nice workshop. I think it was full of very practical tools that we can implement in our day-to-day work. I think that's the most valuable thing usually you look for when you join similar types of workshops. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. This was wonderful. All right. So another fun thing that innovative teams do, when you think of like a sports team, you know how they always like huddle and then they like say some sort of chant and then they like clap and then they go like start playing. We're going to do that. So I would love if you would be prepared to clap. So come off mute if you can. Rajan, will you count us to 3? So like you'll say 1, 2, 3, and then after 3, we're all going to clap and then the Zoom meeting's just going to shut off. Okay. Cool. Everyone understand what's going to happen? Okay. Fantastic. All right. So hands up, ready to clap. Rajan's going to say 1, 2, 3. After 3, we're all going to clap and the Zoom meeting's going to end. All right. Ready.
2 and 3.